Hi there, I am Dr. Jennifer of Strategic Strides Animal Chiropractic, and I'm coming to you guys via Zoom with an interview here today with Jennifer Derksen. So Jennifer is a colleague of mine. We work on a few clients together. I also had the pleasure of working with her horses, and I find what she does for her living is perfect complementary to what I do. So I find with the horses, a lot of times people say my horse has a bad one side and what's the problem? But sometimes the problem stems from the rider. So I'm going to just come right in and introduce you. Jennifer, can you tell me, you are the rider mechanic. Tell me basically, what is the rider mechanic? Who are you? What do you do?
Ooh, good question. So I'm first of all, a horse crazy girl enthusiast, have been since the day I popped out of the womb, but unfortunately I was not born into a horsey family. So I had to wait until I was an adult to begin riding. So I think that probably served me well, because what happened was I ended up realizing that learning to ride as an adult is not easy. It's a struggle. And particularly when you don't have the young body, you don't have all the flexibility and the things that you have as a youngster, you don't bounce well. And I just found I really struggled with the traditional teaching, with the big chunks of information that I was given. It just didn't work for me, and I was not a natural rider. So I early on came across Mary Wanless's Ride With Your Mind, one of her first books, and it spoke to me instantly. It was like, oh, I got to learn more about this. So I looked her up. I found out she was coming to a town right near Ottawa in Peterborough. And I started taking her clinics. Whenever she came to Canada from the UK, I take her clinics. And then shortly after that, I ended up going to the UK and being a working student for her. And this rider biomechanics it's basically the forces that the horse puts on our bodies and how we react to that force. So how do we deal with that force? There has to be enough force in our body to counteract what the horse does to us. So, I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
From my background as a human chiropractor first, I mean, biomechanics plays a huge role in injury and injury prevention, and taking what I know from the human side of things and putting it through the horse. Like I said, the biomechanics that you create as a rider and on a horse, because I think the biggest pet peeve of all riders is when someone who doesn't know riding says, it's easy, the horse does all the work, right?
Right.
So, I mean, the rider can really influence so much of what the horse does. And if you think it comes natural, even the people who feel or are natural riders, they still have, that's why trainers still take lessons, right? So someone from the outside, their eye can really catch a lot. And I've seen you do that in clinics that we've done together. I mean, just the little subtle changes that you can create make a world of a difference. So I guess when you do a clinic, because I know you host clinics around the Ottawa area as well as travel for them, what are the biggest things that you think you find riders to have issues with?
I think probably the biggest misunderstanding is the riders riding from front to back. Okay. So riding with their hands, because they don't know how to create the force to use their body to counteract the forces of the horse, to be able to take the horse, to be able to keeping up with the horse without having to pull. Mm-hmm. And it's, I mean, Mary is famous for saying riding is a teachable skill, but unfortunately, if you don't have the right words to say, then sometimes it doesn't come out right. So probably the biggest thing I see is, loose riders. They're trying to relax because that's what they've been told, right? They've been told to relax, but it's a high degree of tone in the core required to keeping up with the horse. And again, it's not the rider's fault. It's just it's a misperception, a miscommunication. Because I think as you get more experience as a rider, particularly if you're a professional rider, you do get to a point where you feel like you are really relaxed. but you're not. You're using all these core muscles, you're using all these breathing techniques that have just become second nature to you. So you become unconscious of your own competence. You don't even realize you're doing it. So you don't even think to teach it, right? So it's those little tidbits, I think, that really help riders to find that ability to match their horse and to start to make those changes. And that, along with asymmetries, I think asymmetries is a big deal. We all have them. We all have a gear shift in our car where we slouch over to one side because we're resting on the armrest, or we're on the gear shifter. How we sit on the couch to watch our Netflix. It's all body pattern, and it reflects on our horses. If we're always sitting heavy on our right seat bone in life, you're going to sit heavy on your right seat bone in your saddle. And of course, as you know, you get to see the other side of it, where you get horses that are reactive to the rider's asymmetry.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned core, because if you talk to Dr. Lindsay at Pro Action Sports Injury Clinic, or me when I was really working with people more, if they had back pain or hip pain, we'd always go back to the core muscles. And I still say it now with horses with top line. People are always telling me my horse needs a top line. Well, I tell them, you got to work on your horse's core. That, the core is, everything for every species, it seems, that's an athlete. So the core is huge. So I'm glad you touched upon that. And the same thing that you said with the asymmetries, right? Like I treated a horse today, a young horse, and it had a dominant side and a weak side. And we're seeing that in 4-year-olds, right? Like we naturally have a dominant and a weak side. And especially in the young horses, or the horses that are learning, the rider has to kind of put the horse together, right? They are so dependent on the rider. So if the rider's got issues in their own seat, the horse is going to learn that behavior, right? And it's just going to carry on with them. So I'm glad you touched on that, because I think it's a huge thing in everything, humans too. The other thing I wanted to say, so when you provide these clinics, or you do a one-on-one with somebody, do you feel that in that time that you're with them, or in that clinic, that they come out with a ton of stuff to work on? Or do you feel like the little things that you show them in that clinic and they work on it, big differences can be seen in their horse right away?
Yeah, so sometimes it depends. It really depends on the horse and rider. So, I work with horses and riders at all levels. So I can have a horse and rider come in that are riding 4th level, and maybe they're having problems with their changes, right? They're flying changes. They're late behind, and they've tried everything. Nothing's working. So I'll just ask them to do the exercise. Do your flying changes. Go across the diagonal. Let's see if just a simple straightforward flying change. And I can usually see pretty quick what the rider's doing with their body to cause the horse to be late behind. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes the horses, they have something wrong. And then I refer them to people, usually yourself here in Ottawa, because there's something obviously physically wrong that the horse can't do it. But 9 times out of 10, I would say it's the rider. The rider is either falling back in the change, so they put too much weight back in the saddle to the loins of the horse, and then he can't get up underneath himself to get that change clean. Yeah. And I've seen riders where I make a very simple change, and I usually do things where the rider, so that the rider can notice what it is they're doing in their body. So, I mean, a great example is a student I had where exactly that, late changes, late behind. So what I did is I put 2 pieces of dowel underneath her armpits, and I have them marked with orange on the tip, so that it's really in your peripheral vision. So you don't have to look at the sticks, but you really see them. And as she did the change, I had her wear them and do the change, keep them under her armpits. And she could see how the sticks went up in the change. They went up. So she could see how she fell back in the change, and she wasn't keeping up with her horse. So it's like riding the crest of the wave is, very common. Keeping up is a big deal. And I think we often, and we see a lot of the upper level riders riding, way back behind vertical, and they might be able to get away with it, but the average Joe can't. So anyways, as soon as she saw that, I took the sticks away, and boom, she had clean changes. So it's like, sometimes it's just something little like that. Other times it depends on where the rider is in their journey. Sometimes they need, quite a few little pieces to start to make the changes and start to recognize what it is. But always, I would say, I can't even think of one case where there hasn't been a change that has been made in the rider that hasn't ended up reflecting in the horse. So you get a rider who is more stuffed, more defined edges, more full, high pressure, and the horse mimics that. The horse cannot not follow what we do. If we're symmetrical, we're even, our forces are matching theirs, it makes it so much easier for the horse to carry us. And it's so critical, and I love what I do.
So you say simplicity, and we were talking before we actually started recording the interview. So I had a show horse, and we always would, on the reverse direction, it was always trot to canter. We knew it was coming. My horse could anticipate it because she'd start walking faster. She probably knew could feel my excitement through the seat of the saddle. And I'd always rush it. So we'd always pick up the wrong lead, and it would blow our class, and we'd be angry about it. And then a client of mine now, but she's been a long time rider that I've known since a kid, she said, look at the outside shoulder, just glance down. You can do it even as you reverse, just start looking at the outside just with your eyes. That was enough, and it just shifted my body weight without me even knowing. And we picked up the correct lead every time after that. So I mean, like you say, simple, but it's something I never would have thought of. And when she told me, I'm like, that's not going to work, but it did. And it worked every time after that. And I still remember it, 20 years later. So it was a nice tip. So I find, like you said, the outside eyes, especially an outside trained eye, in biomechanics is huge for the horse. And I see it, like I said, all too much. I've seen clients of mine who've used your services, and I've seen the changes in the horse from the start of seeing them, even a couple of years or a couple months before you have gotten your hands on the rider, and the changes after. So I'm a big fan. We've done clinics together with Dr. Lindsay at ProAction. I think everything that we kind of do mesh together well. And I am one that does not back something that I don't think that works. So I know this works because, like I said, I've seen it firsthand with my horse stuff. So one thing, I don't want to make this too long of an interview for everybody, but if they want to contact you, or if someone wants to find you and use you or watch some of the stuff you post, where can they do that?
So I have a website, theridermechanic.com. I also have a Facebook page called The Rider Mechanic. I try to post often. I haven't been doing so much with the virus going on. It just seems, I don't know. It's like you get a little bit stuck, but I hope to do more. I do e-lessons, which is, I think it's funny because I've said this I've been doing e-lessons through an app called The Coach's Eye. So people send me about a 3-minute video, and then I analyze it and I break it down, and I look at literally hours of video in slow motion. And I think that's how my eye has gotten so good at picking up the little things that make the difference. But they're incredibly helpful. And I've said for years, this is the way we need to go. There's no, you don't have travel, you don't have, it's much cheaper than a clinic. They're just amazing. And it's one-on-one. You can watch it as many times as you want because you get the recording. And it's, I think it's great. Anyways, the directions are on my website if anybody wants to try one. If anyone would like to see one, I'll be doing a clinic in support of lesson horses on Saturday morning. So that's what date?
Look here.
It is the 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 9th at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
I'll be doing an online clinic where students are just going to submit some random video.
Where can they find this clinic that's going to be held on Saturday? Is this the one through Amanda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Amanda Dunklin is the one hosting this for Give Back to the school horses in the Ottawa region. So I'll try and post a link to that on my Facebook page, Strategic Strides, just so people can join in.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, other great talks going on too to support a good local cause. So I'll make sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna support the schoolies.
Yes, and I mean the e-lesson is nice. Sometimes when I heard you say that, I was like, you know what, that's nice, because sometimes when I had a certain trainer there watching me, you're on your best behavior, right? So sometimes when you just submit a video, they have to see how you ride every day. So the e-lesson is a nice way for you to see them in their kind of
Yeah.
nice, easy, relaxed environment.
Yeah, and it's relaxed for the horse too, right? So you don't have the tension that you get in a clinic setting where you come into a new environment and the horse is, the horse is upset because they're in a new environment. But the best part is I can slow it down. So I can slow you down to like frame by frame,
Yep.
so you can really get a chance to see where the biomechanics goes wrong and how that impacts your horse. And the changes are, I work with a lady from Scotland, and it's incredible in a month how much she's changed with 3 lessons.
Nice.
It's
It's very
technology,
rewarding
right?
when things speak for themselves, right? When your work can speak for you. And I see it. And like I said, I've seen it with clients that you've worked with that I've seen, and we've been battling the same issues with the horse. So
Yeah, likewise.
biomechanic is key. So I highly support
So
you.
is your equine chiropractor. Absolutely key. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference, right? If your horse is symmetrical and healthy and balanced, to start with, it's half your battle. So without you, I'm always telling people, you need body work, your horse needs body work. It's a package deal. It doesn't, you can't just ride and hope it's magically going to happen.
I tell all my clients, because they'll spend for their horse to get a chiropractor, but they don't want to spend for themselves. And I said, it's a total package. You have to do it all. And you got to think of it. Your horse is the athlete, you are an athlete, and you're combining yourself together. So you're becoming a team. So to become a team, you need to work together, and you both need to be at your top level, right?
And you want to be a team for a long time. And to be a team for a long time, you got to stay healthy and you got to take care of yourself.
So true. So, well, I appreciate you joining me tonight. It's been great to talk to you. I know I always enjoy our conversation when I'm out seeing your horses. So I will make sure we post those links for your website and also for the clinic. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me or you directly. Is there anything else you want to say before we leave?
I think that's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to work with you. And I look forward to our future together. Absolutely.
Perfect. Me as well. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Bye now.